We're joined now by the Manager of Opposition Business, Christopher Pyne. Welcome.
Chris, good to be with you.
Now, this is a signed agreement from the Coalition to the Arts Minister offering him a pair for Margaret Olley's memorial service. Why wasn't it honoured?
Well, pairs are a bit of a movable feast in politics, and circumstances change. And we didn't know when that letter was signed that yesterday morning we'd be moving a motion in the House about the integrity of the government. And my view, Tony Abbott's view, is that when the government is under such a cloud, whether its integrity is at the very core of the national debate, as it is over the Julia Gillard's handling of the Thompson affair, the place of every member who can be physically there is in the House. So yesterday morning, Jenny Macklin had a pair to be in the Northern Territory. Kevin Rudd had a pair because he had had a heart operation. Every other member who could physically be there, we expected to be there.
Tony Abbott has said that we can trust the things that he writes down. Do we now have to start worrying about that as well?
Well, the truth is pairs are an arrangement between political parties. They change quite often.
Written ones?
Sometimes pairs, well, every pair is a written one. Sometimes we have 4 or 5 pairs out. Sometimes they are then reduced to 1 or 2. It depends very much on the circumstances of the time. And on such an important issue as a vote on the integrity of the government, requiring the Prime Minister and the member for Dobell to be in the House to make a statement to the public and to the Parliament on behalf of the 70,000 Health Services Union members, we felt that it was an occasion when the pair should be broken.
Well, you've signalled that you're going to play politics as hard as you possibly can. Are you then certain that every member of the Coalition's personal life, from the leader on down, will stand public scrutiny?
Well, that's a matter for the future. I can't predict. I haven't got a crystal ball about what might happen down the track. What I can tell you is that right now the member for Dobell is existing under a very serious cloud. The member for Dobell has made a series of claims that the allegations made against him are a misrepresentation. We've given the government 4 opportunities this week to require the member for Dobell to tell the Parliament why those claims are a misrepresentation, and he hasn't taken the opportunity.
And happy to come to that in a moment, but if the written agreements of politics aren't being honoured, do you believe that the unwritten rules of Australian politics will stand? Will people's personal lives now be dragged into public debate?
Well, look, I doubt it. I don't think the situation surrounding Craig Thompson isn't actually his personal life. There's a New South Wales police investigation into whether the credit cards of the Health Services Union were misused while he was the National Secretary. The Kathy Jackson, who's the head of the HSU now, has referred this matter to the New South Wales Police, and she's said on behalf of the 70,000 members of the HSU that there are questions that need to be answered. And since the government refuses to allow Craig Thompson to appear and speak in the Parliament, then it's up to the opposition to stand up for those 70,000 people. And these are real blue-collar workers, Chris. These are the people who clean and look after hospitals and aged care facilities and others.
But on the police investigation, how proper is it for Senator George Brandis to call the New South Wales Police Minister, and I apologise, I made an error in that report by saying the Commissioner, but calling the Police Minister, who then called the Commissioner? Well,
George rang the Police Minister on August the 19th, and then the Police Commissioner, Andrew Scipione, he said that if George Brandis had any information he wanted to put before him, that he should write him a letter containing that information. So he did. 4 days later, the New South Wales Police decided to launch an investigation. So there's no... the idea that Julia Gillard tried to get up today in her attempt to create a smokescreen, that somehow George Brandis had interfered in a police investigation, is highly defamatory and completely untrue.
Shouldn't George Brandis now front Parliament and explain what he did?
Well, he might choose to do so. I mean, that's a matter. In 2 weeks' time, he might come back and do that.
Do you think that he should do it?
Well, George Brandis is not under investigation for the misuse of union funds. I mean, we're talking about $101,000 of cash withdrawals from ATMs. We're talking about $40,000 of electoral expenditure and $28,000 of personal expenditure. Now, trying to marry the two together is really the sign of a very desperate government that's trying to create a smokescreen. Even so desperate, Chris, that they dragged Mary Jo Fisher, who's being treated for a depressive illness, into their paltry defence today.
And do you know the state of the mind of Craig Thompson at the moment? Do you think that what you're doing is fair to him or remains fair to him? I mean, if everything is open season, then surely Mary Jo Fisher is also open season.
Well, I think if Craig Thompson came along and made a statement to the Parliament and explained his side of the story, then the opposition would be more than comfortable.
And in 2009, Malcolm Turnbull was invited by the government to come in and explain himself to Parliament, and he refused to do so. So why should Craig Thompson accede to your request?
Well, because the government has an integrity problem. There was an integrity problem with Julia Gillard and the government. And if Julia Gillard wanted to show strength as the Prime Minister, then she would stop her vituperative and vindictive attacks on people like Mary Jo Fisher and George Brandis and others, and Tony Abbott and myself and many other members of the opposition front bench, and simply show the leadership that the public is desperately seeking from its Prime Minister.
Well, speaking of leadership, you also have a role in that, and do you believe that the way that Parliament's conducting itself at the moment, and you're a big part of that, is lowering it in the esteem of the public?
I think that the Parliament is very fractious. It's very antagonistic, and the reason for that is because we have a very bad government that is trying to introduce a carbon tax, which they lied about before the election. So the Prime Minister got elected on the basis of a lie. She said she would never challenge Kevin Rudd. That was the first big lie. The public thought this is a very bad thing. The second big lie was saying that there'd be no carbon tax, and now she's introducing one, and that naturally creates an atmospheric which I don't think is positive for anyone.
And how much damage are you prepared to do in order to win government?
Well, we think that the government should be a lot better, and if the government started showing that it could be better, well, I think the public would respond. Now, what the public is showing us through the opinion polls and through the field evidence that I pick up in my own electorate and across Australia is that they agree that this is a bad government and that they should hold an election before they break their promise over the carbon tax.
And are you prepared to break all the rules and all the agreements and all the way that politics is played in order to win government?
Well, we haven't done that, I hasten to add. As I pointed out, there were 2 pairs out yesterday. We've flagged our intentions very early. We've said that the government should not expect a vote on the carbon tax when there are pairs out, and it's entirely within their gift when those votes are held.
Christopher Pyne, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.